Hi everyone, my name is Tori McGee. I'm 32 years old and I reside in Jersey City, New Jersey. And I was recently diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 3. And I really wanted to just create this channel to connect with everyone out there that might be going through um, this battle with this disease, or people who might be supporting family members that are going through it. And when I got the diagnosis, I really didn't see a lot of people of color that were talking about their experiences, and so I struggled a little bit from a support perspective for people that look like me. And so I figured, maybe I can be the one to share my experience, and we can just kind of learn from each other. And so I wanted to kind of create this channel and really use the first the first video to talk about the symptoms, the signs, and really how I got to the diagnosis. So it is September 3rd, and back in June, early June, I started having this cough. And the cough was a pretty dry cough. There was no phlegm or no mucus, and it didn't feel like a cold. I didn't really have any other symptoms that might indicate that it might be a cold, but it just, something felt off about it. So about 2 weeks in, I went to a local clinic nearby and said, hey, I think it might be a common cold. I'm not certain. I think I might need some antibiotics. And so they listened to my lungs and said, hey, you know what? I think it's just, there's a cough going around. Sounds like it might be a virus. So it's going to take about 6 weeks to work its way out of your system. They recommended me to change my toothbrush, recommended me to take some Delsum, and they said drink a lot of tea with lemon. And I said, sure. 6 weeks came and went, and they were still, it just still was going. So by this time, I had scheduled my appointment with my primary doctor by this point, it's mid to late July. In the midst of waiting for my primary care appointment, I started to notice other signs. So my skin got really, really itchy, and I started to have these like weird patches of just skin that was just like flaky and dry and itchy. It was a different type of itch. It felt like, of course, it was from the kind of the inside out, almost like very kind of tingly sensation that wouldn't go away with cream. It wouldn't go away with itching. It just was pretty miserable. And so that was the first sign. So I actually started to ask around for friends to say, hey, do you have recommendations for dermatologists? My skin is being weird. My hands, inside of my hands were peeling. And I was looking really to go in and see a derm. And then the other thing that I noticed, and I guess I didn't really make a clear correlation between just my body being out of whack, but people kept stopping me in the office, and family members kept saying, oh, I think are you losing weight? Looks like you're losing weight. And I started a new job in October of 2018, and I remember saying a couple times like, oh, I think it's just a new job, but it must be stress induced, no big deal. But within that range, kind of maybe late June into early July, I could notice, that's when I really, really started to notice it became more rapid. So my clothes were fitting very loose, and I couldn't really fit into much and, fill things out the way that I'm used to filling things out. And so that was another thing. I also wasn't sleeping through the night. So I would like wake up in the middle of the night and I'd have sweats, and I'd just kind of be like almost drenched. And I'd just be hot, and I'd pump the AC, and it was very uncomfortable. And so, I think my body was telling me that something was wrong, right? And so by the time I got to my doctor's appointment and I said, hey, here are the symptoms that I'm experiencing in addition to this cough, he initially thought that it was a thyroid issue. And, but he said, you know what? Liz, we're going to test you for, any kind of thyroid issues, but we really want to make sure we figure out what's going on with your cough. So went in, got a chest x-ray, and, they called me back immediately, said, hey, we see something we see a mass. It looks like it's kind of sitting right above your lungs. It's in your chest cavity, so we've got to go in and do a scan. So I did a CT scan the next day, and that's when the doctor indicated shortly thereafter that they had a hunch that it was Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I had to go in to get a PET scan. And so I'm thinking, okay, Hodgkin's lymphoma, not really familiar with that, but they indicated that, it's a disease, a cancer that originates in your lymphatic system, and let's just do some testing first, and then we'll take it from there. So we did the PET scan. PET scan came back and indicated that it was actually Hodgkin's, and I was in stage 3 because I have not only a tumor in my chest, and the tumor in my chest is pretty sizable. The doctor compared it to the size of a grapefruit. But I also had, I have, kind of cancer cells throughout my abdominal area, under my armpit, in my neck area. But the most sizable, of course, is the one in my chest. And what I also didn't mention was that I had some issues breathing as a prior symptom, and it's because that tumor was resting on my trachea, pushing my trachea back, and essentially making it difficult for me to breathe. So my trachea was 4 millimeters, and so very, very small. The doctor said it's the size of a tip of a pin, right? So the airway was compromised, and so it just, to hear the diagnosis was initially very scary, and to hear stage 3, right? Because you're always thinking, oh my gosh, stage 3, stage 4, what's going on. In stage 3, what I learned through all the research and through this experience to date, stage 3 indicates that you have cancer above and below the diaphragm. So it's not isolated to just kind of one particular area, but it hasn't hit any major organ. So if it would have been in some of my major organs, spleen, lungs, etc., and in my bone marrow, it would be stage 4. And so we did the bone marrow biopsy, and that came back clear. And so pretty much the course of treatment that I'll undergo is ABVD, which I started about a week ago, and that will essentially be 4 to 6 cycles, for being the bare minimum. But it sounds like based on the scans after my first 2 cycles, we'll figure out if it's going to be 4 or 6. But within each cycle, there's 2 treatments. So I have treatment every 2 weeks. So 2 treatments equals 1 cycle. And then after my 2 cycles, I'll do scans just to make sure things are progressing nicely, look at how I'm responding to the treatment, and then we'll determine how much further we need to go. But I talked to the doctors, they indicated that, look, they know how to treat Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's very common. It's more common in young teens and young adults. And so between the ages of, call it 15 to maybe mid to late 30s, 35 to 39, call it, and then much older. So you've got 60s, 70s, but there's this range, 30, 35, 30-year span, where this particular cancer is less prevalent. It's also more prevalent in white people than people of color, and more prevalent in men than women. So you think about it, it's, really, really young, 15 to mid 30s, it's white, it's male predominantly. And so kind of going back to how I started in terms of why I wanted to just share my experiences with you guys is because being a also falling within the early 30 range, but being a black female, it's quite a rare occurrence for us. So I really did want to share my experience. And I think the important thing for you all is just to pay attention to what your body is telling you. Listen to the signs. It may, it may be one or two of the symptoms. They call it B symptoms that present itself, but really listen to it, because I had probably two or three or four symptoms that I kind of glossed over, but you look at it holistically, and it's pretty serious, heavy stuff. It's highly treatable. One of the doctors said out of all the cancers to have, is one of the best cancers to have. So thanks, Doc, for that. I prefer not to have cancer at all, but I'm trying to be very optimistic and just be very positive and go into it, really with the mindset that I know I'm going to beat it. I know that God's got me. My family's been great. My friends have been great. And so the support has been amazing. My coworkers have been awesome. My company's been great. And so, I'm really taking the time. It seems like it's going to be about a 5 to 6 month journey for treatment. And I'm definitely optimistic, and just wanted to kind of share that journey with you guys. And I'll come back regularly just to kind of check in with you guys in terms of how my body's responding to treatment, kind of the outlook, how things are going. If you have any questions, definitely reach out and send them my way. And, I've already tried to make some kind of immediate lifestyle changes, seemingly healthy individual in terms of I'm 5'10", typically kind of hover around the 200-pound range. I try not to eat a lot of junk, but I like meat. I don't have a big sweet tooth, but, I love a milkshake here and there. So if you looked at me, you would say, oh, she's a healthy young woman. But I do think, looks can be deceiving, right? And one of the things that when I talked to the doctors was about, hey, what did I do to maybe cause this or bring it on? And he said, listen, this is a particular disease where we don't really know what causes it. Some people say it's environmental. Some people, it could be your body's way of responding to a virus, and your body goes out of whack and it kind of overproduces these kind of cancer cells in response to this virus or infection. There's just really no clear, this is what actually causes it. And so, which is tough, right? Because you don't know, really some of the lifestyle changes that you should make. But I think we can all strive to be a little bit more healthy. We can always strive to be a little bit better from a mind, body, and soul perspective, and really focus on being the best versions of ourselves. So again, let me know if you have any questions, and I hope this was helpful for you. All right. See you on the next one. Thanks. Bye.